the word. The rod is for correction. Are y'all still here? Not only is the rod for correction, the rod is also for protection. Oh, Lord, have mercy. And then he said, thy rod and thy staff. I don't know how you feel about it this evening, but I want to tell you, you need a pastor with a rod, and he also needs a staff. You know, the shepherd's staff is very useful. I've heard some preachers preaching, they talk about how he uses the staff. Sometimes the sheep are at the edge of the cliff and he uses the staff to pull them back in. Now, I heard that analogy, but that's not the analogy that the Lord gave me. But also the shepherd, as he's walking through the fields, sometimes he's walking in wooded areas. And the shepherd gets hungry. He takes that same staff and he puts it over the limbs of the trees. And he pulls the limbs down so that he can get the fruit. And all the sheep that follow close get to eat what the pastor eats. Those that come to Bible study, that will be faithful to church, they get the same blessing that the pastor gets. Because they're following leadership. Are y'all still here? He used the rod to pull the limbs down. Now, if pastor is eating peaches, you eat peaches too. If he's eating apples, you eat apples too. You don't have to leave church and say, he's blessed, but I'm struggling. The reason why you're struggling is because you're not following leadership. But the closer you get to your man of God, the more your actions and your behavior will resemble the teaching of your leader. Look at your neighbor and say, you ought to be what your pastor is teaching. Whatever your pastor is teaching, that ought to be the life that you lead. I can't get no help over here. Now watch this. As he's walking through the fields, he's feeding the sheep. And all the sheep that follow up close, they carry the same anointing of the shepherd. But every now and then you get a sheep that'll wander off. And as he's wandering off, he doesn't understand that as the shepherd is leading the sheep, he's looking down on the ground. Because he understands that there are bees and wasps on the ground. And he doesn't want to lead his flock down the path of the bees. Because the nostril of the sheep is real wide. And because his nose is so wide, the bees will get up in his nostril. And sometimes when the bees go up his nostril, they get in his head. And there's a buzzing going on in the head. Because the sheep now have bee trouble. And the shepherd knows when the sheep got bee trouble. Because when they get back to the sheepfold, they're knocking their head. You wonder why they can't get with the praise and worship. You wonder why they can't get with the preaching of the gospel. Because they have bee trouble. The bees are buzzing in their head. Now, not only do the bees give them problems, but it is scientifically proven that some sheep even commit suicide because they can't handle the buzzing that's going on in their head. But the truth of the matter is, the only reason why you got bee trouble is because you failed to follow leadership. If you had followed your pastor, you never would have got bees in your head. But because you went out on your own, you done picked up some stuff that never would have been. I wish I had somebody here. And now can you hear the bees buzzing? The bees are buzzing in the head. And the shepherd goes into the barn. He pulls out the sulfur. Because they know the sulfur will kill the bees. But when the shepherd tried to put the sulfur in his nose, the sheep start backing up. Pastor, you're coming a little too strong. I can't handle what you're preaching right now. So then the shepherd goes back into the barn
Galilee. He mixes the sulfur with frankincense and myrrh. He mixes it all together. You know, that's a sweet smell. And he'll put the sulfur in there with the oil. And then the shepherd comes back and he sticks the oil in the nose of the sheep. And that's what David said. He anointed my head with oil. Because he knew I had trouble in my life. He knew I was struggling with depression. He knew I was about to lose my mind. So I wish I had somebody say, God, God got in the hands of the shepherd. And when the shepherd touched the nose of the sheep, the bees began to die because he anointed my head with oil. I had trouble in my life, but thank God for good leadership. Thank God for pastors that know hold grudges. Thank God for pastors that know how to forgive. Thank God for loving pastors. Thank God for kind pastors. Thank God for pastors that when they see you, even though you've been gone for over a year, his arms are still wide open because he understands that the power of God is in his hands. I want to tell somebody this evening, even when your preacher don't have a word, he got power in his hands. I wish I had somebody that power in the hands of a preacher. Lord have mercy. He anointed my head with oil. You got to understand that when you come in contact with the anointing, your life will never be the same. It doesn't matter what your problem is, but when the anointing comes, it will destroy